All right, today we're going to talk about something fascinating. It's the tech that's trying to read our minds. Well, okay, not exactly our minds, but our tweets, our reviews, our posts. We're diving deep into the world of sentiment analysis. I mean, think about it. Every single day, we produce this absolute tidal wave of text online, right? Product reviews, social media rants, comments on news articles. It's just this massive ocean of human feeling, all typed out in words. So the big question, the really crucial one, is how on earth does anyone make sense of all that? So here's what we've got on tap. We're going to start with why we even need this stuff in the first place. Then we'll get into what it actually is, the finer details, how it works under the hood, the challenges it faces out in the wild, and to wrap it all up, the really important human questions it forces us to ask. Okay, let's jump right in. Section 1, a world of opinions. So think back to the explosion of Web 2.0. Suddenly, everyone had a platform, right? Blogs, social media, you name it. And for businesses, all those opinions, the good, the bad, the ugly, they basically became a form of virtual currency. They desperately needed a way to sift through all that noise automatically, to figure out what people were saying and manage their reputation in real time. And that's where this new field comes into the picture, designed to solve that exact problem of just too much information. Which brings us right to Section 2, decoding our feelings. So what is sentiment analysis really? Well, the formal definition is all about using natural language processing to study subjective data. But let's break that down. In simple terms, it's about teaching a computer to read a sentence and figure out the feeling behind it. It's a way to put a number on emotion, but on a massive, massive scale. Okay, so at its most basic level, the number one job for sentiment analysis is to figure out something called polarity.
Is the text positive? Like, this is a great movie. Or is it negative, like, I really disliked the film? Or is it just neutral? A simple statement of fact with no real emotion attached, like, the movie is 90 minutes long. Positive, negative, or neutral. That's polarity.
But of course, human language is way more complicated than just a simple thumbs up or thumbs down, right? And that's what brings us to Section 3, beyond positive or negative. All right, take a look at this quote. A hotel can have a convenient location, but mediocre food. So, is that review positive or negative? Well, it's kind of both, isn't it? The location is great, but the food? Not so much. A simple positive/negative score is just going to miss that nuance completely. And that's exactly why we need something a little more advanced. This is where something called aspect-based sentiment analysis comes in. Instead of giving one score for the whole review, it gets specific. It identifies opinions about particular features. So the location gets a thumbs up, a positive score, and the food gets a thumbs down, a -1. See? Way more useful, right? Here's another huge distinction the tech has to figure out. The difference between an objective fact and a subjective opinion. One is just straight up verifiable information. The other, well, that's someone's personal belief or feeling. Let's make this super clear with an example. On the left, you've got a statement that a presidential candidate has to be at least 35. That's an objective fact. It's written right into the law. You can look it up. But the one on the right, about needing a mature president, that's a subjective opinion. A really effective system has to know the difference between the two. Okay, so we get what it does, but how does it actually work? How does a machine learn to feel? Let's pop the hood and take a look. Section 4, the engine under the hood. So, broadly speaking, there are three main ways to do this. First, you've got knowledge-based systems. These basically rely on huge dictionaries of emotional words, happy, sad, angry. Then you have statistical methods, which use machine learning to find patterns in tons and tons of data. And, as you can probably guess, hybrid approaches try to combine the two to get the best of both worlds. But how does a machine actually learn all this? Well, there's this really cool process called bootstrapping. Here's how it works. You start by giving the machine a tiny list of seed words, super simple stuff like good and bad. Then you let it loose on millions of sentences to see what other words, like excellent or terrible, tend to show up in the same kind of context. It snags those new words, adds them to its dictionary, and then just repeats the process over and over. It's literally teaching itself the language of human emotion. All right, enough of the technical deep dive for a minute. Let's pull back and look at the bigger picture. Time for Section 5, real world, real challenges.
I mean, this technology is pretty much everywhere you look. It's powering those recommender systems that tell you what to watch next. It's being used by traders trying to predict stock market moves based on social media buzz. It classifies reviews, it summarizes long documents for you, and yeah, it even helps filter the spam out of your inbox. But, and this is a big but, it's far from perfect. Why? Because human language is just so messy and complex. Just think about sarcasm. If someone writes, "Great, another meeting, just what I needed today," a simple algorithm sees the word great and thinks, "Hey, that's positive." It completely misses the real sarcastic meaning. It just doesn't get the joke. And here's something that really puts the difficulty into perspective. If you give the exact same piece of text to two different people and ask them to rate the sentiment, guess what? They only agree with each other about 80% of the time. Think about that. If we humans can't even agree all the time, that 80% is pretty much the best we can ever hope for from an AI. It's like the ceiling for how good this can get. And all of this, all these challenges, leads us to our final, and honestly, probably the most important section of all, the human side of AI. When you start building technology that can interpret human emotion, you run headfirst into some really serious ethical questions. First off, privacy. You're analyzing personal data, often without anyone really clicking, "I agree." Then there's the massive problem of bias. If an AI learns from biased text all over the internet, guess what? Its judgments are going to be biased too. And of course, there's always the huge potential for misusing or misinterpreting this very sensitive data. So we're going to leave you with this final thought. As this technology gets more and more woven into the fabric of our society, influencing what we buy, maybe even who we vote for, and how we see the world, the central question isn't going away. It's this: if AI can read our emotions, who exactly should be in control?